Well, China each week usually defines some step by either the Americans or the Taiwanese or somebody else as provocative in the Taiwan Straits. So we should not be carried away by that. Secondly, the analysis that we've seen, loose analysis we've seen from some in the United States and elsewhere, that the Ukraine invasion by the Russians is a harbinger of an impending Chinese military action against Taiwan, I think is fanciful. The bottom line is China would only take up military action against Taiwan when it's concluded that the overwhelming preponderance of military forces between itself and the United States and the Taiwanese and prospectively the Japanese in East Asia and the West Pacific would nonetheless guarantee it of inevitable victory. Now, China is not at that stage yet, and I think we're not likely to see China believing it's at that stage until well through towards the end of the 2020s and into the 2030s. I think the final thing, though, is that the Chinese will be looking very carefully at the nature of the financial, economic, and diplomatic fallout for Russia from the rest of the world as a result of this unilateral Russian invasion. And that's where China will be looking at long-term lessons for itself, particularly about the impact of US-led financial sanctions.
Kevin, we also have the NPC coming up in China, where the focus is clearly going to be on two objectives, growth and stability. Can China ensure that in this environment?
Well, Xi Jinping has two sets of challenges on his plate right now, and perhaps three. He's up for re-election or reappointment as General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party at the 20th Party Congress this November. Secondly, he's got a lot of economic headwinds at the moment, slowing Chinese domestic economic growth for a range of reasons, partly related to the historical overhang of the trade war, partly related to the impact of the pandemic on China's domestic growth numbers, but primarily due to, shall I say, left-leaning economic policy settings preferencing state-owned enterprises over the Chinese private sector. As a consequence, growth is slowing. So that creates headwind for him politically going into this November. Secondly, you're going to have a parallel critique of possible foreign policy overreach by Xi Jinping in relation to this unqualified support for the Russian position brought about by his deeply personal relationship with Vladimir Putin. The two describe each other, by the way, as the closest friends in international politics. So for those sets of reasons, I think we're looking at a challenging political year for Xi Jinping. The NPC, about to be convened, will be dealing with one of those problems in particular, which is how to jumpstart afresh China's growth numbers in order to bring it as closely as possible to 5 to 6% by the end of this calendar year as we move into the 20th Party Congress.